Hey, it's Jordan, still out here in front of Flint's water treatment plant with residents who have been really tragically affected by this water crisis. I think the media often talks about it like past tense. This happened 5 years ago. Obviously, we found that the water is still very questionable here, but it's the lives that are being impacted, lives that have been lost here. Sorry, I missed all your names.
My name is Scotty Boyd.
Scotty Boy.
My name is Voyle String.
My name is Levy Gordon.
And Levy, who's on your shirt that says "My Whole World"?
My son, his name is Milton Gordon. In the time of the water crisis coming out, my son had gotten really sick and he was on life support. All they kept saying was he in the water? Was he in the water? Well, me thinking beaches or pools or something, I was like, no. He was playing sports at the school, and come to find out, a lot of places that he was, like Eisenhower for kudos, the water was bad. That tested high for the elementary school, which he was drinking water out the fountain. He went to Southwestern where he was drinking and taking ice baths from football. And then he was at my brother's house when we got out of there because I take care of him. And the water was really bad over there. It's for so long, and they just fixed it. So my son was gurgitating, but they tested him for everything, and they said it wasn't anything, but he was spitting out his insides, and to touch his mouth, blood was just gushing out, so they immediately, when I told the schools and stuff what was going on with him, they banned the water from the kids drinking the water at schools. And then it's been over 4 years, and they just now fixed the lead lines at my brother's house. But, yep, this is my son, Milton Gordon, and he's doing good. He's better now, yes.
And who was testing? You said they were testing him and saying everything was fine.
Hurley Hospital. Every test that they ran on him was coming back negative. And this one last test that they ran, they said it was adenovirus caused by a common cold, but he didn't have nothing but one of the symptoms, and because he had one of those symptoms, that's how they diagnosed him. But
Common cold and then blood is gushing out of your mouth?
yes. And another news reporter had let one of their people look at his results, because I went and got the medical records, and they said it looked like it was Legionnaires disease. That's what the results and stuff was looking at. They wasn't showing any lead or anything, but it was some of the other bacteria that was contained into the water.
And what about you, sir?
Yes, I'm here for the blind and physically handicaps by how my house was the worst house in Flint on the water the lead pipeline, and they were supposed to come out and fix my pipes years ago. When they first found out, they came and told me that my house was the worst water. When they did the water testing on my house, I was wondering why it was pretty peculiar, because they did it one day, and then all of a sudden, 2 more people show up with 2 more water jugs, and they want to test the waters again. And so, and come to find out that my water was the worst. The lines at my house was the worst in the city of Flint.
And do you remember how high the levels were?
I don't remember how high it was, but it was high enough to where I was breaking out with rashes in my chest. My hair was falling out. They bad breaking out with rashes on my back. And so I had to basically stop using the water. And the water started to smell. And when the water started to smell, then it really was time for me to stop using. Then they gave us filters for the water. But how do I know when to change the filters when I can't see the light flashing on it to change the filters? And so, but they were saying that we went to the city council meeting, they said that the water was fine to drink, but they was drinking bottled water. They wasn't drinking the tap water. And it was 3 individuals that brought water from their house. One of them was clear, The other one was cloudy, and the other one was light brown.
When they were testing your home, did they ask you to have somebody else there since, you're handicapped, so you should have somebody there to check what they're doing?
They didn't do none of that. All they did is gave me the 2 bottles, and basically told me to check it in the morning before I cut it on, and then before I drink some of the water, let it run for 5 minutes. I said, but if you ain't fixed my landline, my landline from the house to the street, what's the difference? I'm gonna still be getting it 5 minutes from now and 5 minutes after. So what's the difference?
And did you have other problems other than rashes and things like that? Any autoimmune problems, cognitive?
See, cause I'm a diabetic, and I got high blood pressure, and basically I go see about 4 or 5 different doctors.
Were you a diabetic before the water crisis?
I didn't become, basically, yeah, but it just intensified. They got me on 7 different medications now.
Let me ask you, it seems to me the last governor, declared the water, quote, restored was his phrase. We found that the testing they did, they were actually running people's water, essentially cheating. So how are residents, the very agency that caused this crisis in the first place, the environmental agency, they're the ones testing, and we're finding that they're flushing residents' lines right before. So how are they saying the water's safe?
See, it started at the top, and the governor is at the top. Can't nothing get moved unless he okay it. And so he's saying that it wasn't none of his fault that the water was bad, but it is his fault, because in order for them to shut the water off from where we was getting the water at, they got to get the okay from him. And if they don't get the okay from him, they can't do anything, because everything started at the top and it trickles down.
And did they change your service line or your interior plumbing in your home?
They just, after my water being as bad as it was, my house over where I lived at should have been the first ones. It took them 4.5 years. Well, it took more than 4.5 years, because they just did my lines about a month ago.
I want that to sink in. You have a blind individual, one of the highest levels in all of Flint. 4.5 years later, they changed the service line, which, by the way, there's this big misnomer that it's just the service lines they need to change. It's not like the interior plumbing had some cloak over it, and that was protected. So the plumbing in the home is damaged in a lot of homes. So, Jesus could bless the water in that new pipe they put in, service line, but what if the inside of the homes are damaged?
Exactly. Yes, they didn't check that, but they put landlines from the street to the house, service lines from the street to the house, and that's all they did is put them.
Right now we're trying to get him a filtered water heater. And yes, everything, because he's disabled and because his skin had broke out so bad and because of his health issues. We trying to do all of this, and then we've been calling, trying to get on the list for it, and letting them know, well, he's disabled and they just fixed his lines, but if we can't get moved up to get this taken care of, what good is it?
Let me ask you a question, ma'am. Do you think if you were all from Ann Arbor, maybe a different color, made a little more money, that you'd be waiting 5 years later for service line replacement?
No, I don't think you would. I think they would come right in. If you was important enough, more, they would do you. They would probably come and do it right quick, because they know you could probably, make trouble, for them. So they would. I think they would do that.
But I think about this one lady all the time, and she was right there at the Hallwood Plaza. She had some flyers that she was passing out, and and I kept seeing her pass these flyers out. And so by the time some say, get out and see what she's passing out so you can know what's going on, she had just handed her last flyer to someone. And I asked her, I said, ma'am, what are you passing out? And she said, I was downtown. She said, and I overheard something at the city hall. She said, and it's got something to do with the north side. It's gonna impact the north side of town more so than anywhere. She said, and they was talking about something bad about the water. And I think of that all the time. She said, I'm not from here. She said, when I heard it, she said, I went to the Flint Public Library. She said, and I typed down as much as I could. And she said, and I just ran copies and got as many copies as I could. She said, I'm trying to pass the word and hopefully they can hear it. She said, if they read it, she said, when it happened, they're gonna hear me, and if they didn't, they're gonna wish they'd have looked at that piece of paper. She said, and that just sticks with me, and I think about her all the time, and I don't know who she is and where she was from, but I do thank her because I heard her, and I thought, I'm glad I had enough courage to get out and want to know what it was that she was passing out or what it was she was trying to say.
And I want to ask you because I think there's also the media has pushed out that only 12 people died because of the Flint water crisis. I mean, because of Legionella. I mean, we were knocking on doors all summer. We knocked on 450 doors to find that they were testing the wrong way. Every block you would hear, oh, that person just died. That person just died. Not elderly people, like 40s, 50s, 60s. Can you talk about Flint? You know, people know people, you know. Do you guys know if, you know, a lot of people that are not old have passed away in recent years from illnesses that they didn't have earlier?
This young lady live around the corner on Taylor Street, and she in her 30s or early 40s, and she passed away. I mean, it passed away because of the Legionnaire disease, but they didn't never put her name in the paper. And I can't think of her name. I know her because we went to school together, and they never put her name in the paper, but when they say the names of all the people that passed, they got her name on the list. But they didn't never say anything about her, where she lived at, and how she caught it, and how long she stayed in the hospital. But she passed away because of the water. See, because that water was, just to say for instance, if you have any type of something going wrong with you, that'll amplify it. The water amplified it. And so, just like I said, that I got blood pressure, I'm a diabetic. I was a borderline diabetic, now I'm a full-blown, I'm a second stage diabetic. And like I said, I take 7 different medications now. It seems like every time when I go to the doctor, they're giving me another medication to take. They'll take me off one and put me on another one and stuff like that because they just don't know what to do. And then when the people from Virginia came to check on the water, when they did the independent audit, the college students, what they gonna profit of telling a fib for the city of Flint, to the city of Flint? They don't have no reason to lie to them. And when the governor's office people, the EPA, did their study, and then when the college students did their study, those reports didn't match up. They was taking stuff and putting stuff where they want to put it at and put this where they want to put it at, and then they wasn't meeting up. And then when they finally got caught, they went to jail. Somebody got to pay for it. But I think it should start from the governor, the former governor, on down.
And there's a big discussion now nationally about health care. You know, should we have a Medicare for all system or something else? I haven't heard anyone really talking about why don't people in Flint have Medicare? I mean, you didn't poison yourself. What do you want the audience to know? Because I don't really hear many presidential candidates talking specifically about Flint and the fact that let's not wait for a new president, why isn't expanded Medicare happening now? Because I know residents that have spent $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 out of pocket.
That's it. They don't want to spend the money on, just like you gonna stick your finger in the dam, and when the whole dam is crumbling around you. Why you gonna fix it with a Band-Aid when you know you need a spackle of cement or something? And if you don't fix the crack, the whole dam gonna collapse around you. And then they gonna wait till it's too late to where it's gonna be out of hand, as you would say, and it ain't gonna be no. And then when the lawsuits start coming out, then I can see this government. Well, it ain't our fault. Is they gonna pass the buck?
My last question is, you know, I think there's this term environmental racism. I don't really use it because it's just racism. I mean, it's racism, right? So a lot of residents we've spoken to feel that the not just what happened, but the reaction after, or the lack of action, is basically a way to just try and make residents so tired and exhausted that you move out. You know, trying to push poor people out, trying to push minorities out so that they could build this up into a different kind of city. What are your thoughts on that?
Basically, what they're doing is tearing down this part of town, and then when everybody move out of this part of town and move to this part of town, they fix this part of town back up to where everybody got the nice homes, the green grass, and everything of that nature, and they're regularly, as you said, gentrifying the neighborhood. And if they go on and fix these houses up, because if about 4 years ago you drive down through Flint, I'm talking about from down City Hall to Pasadena. I'm gonna stop at Pasadena. If you look at it then and then look at it now, you wouldn't even think nothing was wrong.
Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.